It's a Tuesday morning in 1966, and musicians are already at work on Brentford Road before 9 o'clock. The studio is a converted house. The mixing desk is modest. The air conditioning is non-existent. And in the next 8 hours, they will lay down 12 complete rhythm tracks, 12 rhythms, for singers who will arrive after dark to record vocals over them. This is how 3 genres were born: ska, rocksteady, the early DNA of reggae. 3 of the most copied, sampled, and globally influential sounds of the 20th century's second half, all from a single converted house on a single road in Kingston, Jamaica. The studio was called Studio One. The man who built it was Clement Dodd, Coxsone to everyone who knew him. A sound system operator with an extraordinary ear. The genres didn't come from Jamaica's beaches or its mountains. They came from its ghettos, its economics, and a specific infrastructure that Coxsone had already spent a decade building before he ever turned on a microphone. Why Kingston? Why this street? Why this man? To understand why a converted house in Kingston produced 3 genres in a decade, you have to see what Kingston was before the house existed. Jamaica in the late 1940s and 1950s was a British colony in economic transition. Rural workers flooded into Kingston's West End, into neighborhoods like Trenchtown, built on land that once held the livestock of a plantation owner named Daniel Power Trench. The Colonial Housing Authority put residents in concrete buildings around shared courtyards with communal kitchens, communal bathrooms, monthly inspections, and 12 shillings a month in rent. These became the famous government yards of Trenchtown. The people who moved in brought music, mento, folk forms from the countryside, church harmonies. They also had access to something the administrators hadn't anticipated: American radio. After World War II, broadcasts from New Orleans reached Jamaica clearly enough to hear. Fats Domino, Louis Jordan, Roscoe Gordon. The rhythm and blues coming out of the American South hit Kingston like a live signal, and one man in particular was listening. In 1954, Coxsone Dodd set up the downbeat sound system with an amplifier, a turntable, and American records imported from New Orleans and Miami. He opened not one sound system, but 5, each playing every night. Sound systems were, as contemporaries described them, one of the few sure ways to make money in the unstable economy of the area. By the mid-1950s, they had become more popular at Kingston parties than live musicians. Competition was fierce. Popularity depended entirely on having music nobody else had, and DJs scratched identifying labels off records to protect their playlists. They were selling the feeling of hearing something first. That economy, built on scarcity and the thrill of an unheard tune, was about to create something the selectors had not planned. But first, the supply of unheard American records had to run out. By the late 1950s, the supply of unheard American R&B had dried up. As that music crossed over to white American teenagers and evolved into rock and roll, Coxsone Dodd and his rivals faced a choice: keep chasing records that no longer existed in the style they needed, or make their own. They made their own. By the second half of 1959, Dodd and Duke Reed were pressing original Jamaican recordings onto 45 RPM 7-inch discs, and the beat shifted. The early recordings imitated the American shuffle blues, but within a few years, the guitar had moved from the downbeat to the upbeat. Guitarist Ernest Ranglin described the old R&B beat as chink-ka, and the new one as ka-chink. That rhythmic chop on the offbeat became the signature of ska. How the shift happened is genuinely contested. Ranglin said the word ska came from the sound of the guitar strum itself. Scat, scat, scat. Others said musicians originally called it staya staya. What the record does show is timing. Ska's emergence coincided almost exactly with Jamaica's independence from Britain in 1962. Songs like the Skatalites' Freedom Sound captured a specific national mood: jubilant, forward-looking, fast. In 1963, Coxsone opened Studio One on Brentford Road, the first black-owned recording studio in Jamaica. For his house band, he turned to a source most histories underestimate. On South Camp Road in Kingston, a school run by Roman Catholic nuns had been operating since 1880 as a home for what its founders described as wayward boys. Alpha Boys' School formed a brass band in 1892, later upgraded with instruments gifted by the Catholic Bishop of Jamaica. For generations, Alpha turned Kingston's most disadvantaged children into exceptional jazz musicians. 4 of the 10 founding members of the Skatalites were Alpha alumni: Don Drummond, Tommy McCook, Johnny Dizzy Moore, and Lester Sterling. Don Drummond was at the center of all of it. Trombonist, composer, Rastafarian. He had at least 200 compositions to his name by 1965. The Skatalites backed Bob Marley and the Wailers on their first single, Simmer Down, recorded in late 1963, topping the Jamaican charts in 1964. Then, in January 1965, Drummond was arrested for the murder of his girlfriend. He was convicted, ruled criminally insane, and committed to Bellevue Asylum. He died there in May 1969. The Skatalites broke up 7 months after his arrest. Jackie Mittoo stayed at Studio One. And then Mittoo, now music director, brought in a 15-year-old drummer named Joe Isaacs. Isaacs could not play as fast as the Skatalites had played, so the tempo slowed to match him. As bandleader Lynn Tate described it, "I told Gladdy to slow the tempo, and that's how Take It Easy and Rocksteady came about. Rocksteady is really slow ska." Here's the receipt. Rocksteady, the music that preceded reggae and gave it its harmonic language, was born because a teenager couldn't keep up. The slower tempo gave bass players room for darker tones, longer notes, a melodic lead voice where there had been only a walking line. From 1965 to 1968, the Studio One house band played 9 to 5, 5 days a week, laying down 12 rhythms a day. After dark, the singers arrived: Bob Marley, Burning Spear, the Heptones, Ken Booth, Alton Ellis, Delroy Wilson. Artists gathered even when not scheduled to record, watching Mittoo work, absorbing the method. Horace Andy called it a college. So why Kingston specifically, and not somewhere else? The geographic answer begins with proximity. Kingston sits roughly 1,500 kilometers from Miami and New Orleans, close enough that radio broadcasts reached the island. But proximity alone doesn't explain Kingston over Havana, which is even closer. The institutional explanation is what separates them. Jamaica did not ratify the Berne Convention on International Copyright during the critical years of ska's development. Jamaican musicians and producers were legally free to record their own versions of American songs, to reinterpret, adapt, and build on them without legal consequence. The covers became interpretations. The interpretations became originals. Add to that the specific infrastructure already in place: 5 sound systems playing every night, a competitive market for exclusive recordings, and the Trenchtown government yards, built to house rural migrants in communal spaces that accidentally became rehearsal rooms. Bob Marley's early Wailers rehearsed under a mango tree on 2nd Street. The yard was the studio before the studio existed. The third explanation is a name: Clive Campbell. Campbell grew up in Trenchtown. As a boy, he was too young to enter the dancehall parties that Studio One's sound systems powered. So he stood outside and listened, absorbing the bass, the MC patter, the crowd dynamics, the logic of a system built around one man, a turntable, and speakers delivering 30,000 watts of sound. At age 12, Campbell moved to the Bronx. He became DJ Kool Herc. In 1973, he threw the party at 1520 Sedgwick Avenue that is widely credited with originating hip-hop, importing the Kingston sound system model into New York, emphasizing bass, and introducing MCs to the party scene in a style that echoed the toasting tradition of Jamaican dancehall. By the 1970s, a generation of British Caribbean children had grown up with Jamaican records in their homes. In 1979, Jerry Dammers of the Specials founded Two Tone Records in Coventry, named for its deliberate mixing of black and white musicians during the Thatcher era. The two-tone logo, a cartoon figure in a pork pie hat, was based on a photograph of Peter Tosh. A Studio One artist became the literal face of British ska revival. The scale of what Studio One exported is measurable. Bob Marley's compilation Legend had sold an estimated 28 million copies globally as of 2024, officially the best-selling reggae album ever made. Millie Small's 1964 reinterpretation, My Boy Lollipop, sold over 7 million copies worldwide, Jamaica's first commercially successful international hit. The Skatalites' Skaye adaptation of the Guns of Navarone theme entered the British Top 40 in April 1967. Eric Clapton's cover of I Shot the Sheriff became his first U.S. #1 in 1974. Exodus, recorded in 1977, was named by Time magazine as the greatest album of the 20th century. When Joe Strummer attended an all-night reggae showcase at the Hammersmith Palais in 1978, featuring Jamaican artists, including Delroy Wilson, what he heard went directly into White Man in Hammersmith Palais, NME's Single of the Year, and described as possibly the first song to merge punk and reggae. In 2002, the Institute of Jamaica awarded Coxsone Dodd the Gold Musgrave Medal. On May 1, 2004, Brentford Road was renamed Studio One Boulevard. 3 days later, Dodd died of a heart attack at the studio. He died where he had lived, working. The musicians he built that world with were, for the most part, still waiting for royalties that never arrived. Session players received no credits on most releases. The Skatalites were, in their own words, tired of working so hard for so little money and so little recognition. That tension, enormous global impact, negligible local reward, became the permanent condition of what Studio One created. So the question was, why Kingston? Why this street? The answer is not one thing. It is a chain. A colonial government built communal yards and accidentally created rehearsal spaces. A sound system economy built on scarcity forced producers to record their own music. A teenager who couldn't keep up slowed everything down and invented rocksteady. A boy who stood outside the dance hall took the entire system to the Bronx. And a converted house on a road now renamed Studio One Boulevard laid down 12 rhythms a day, 5 days a week, and the singers arrived after dark. The rhythm is still running. Coxsone Dodd was not trying to change music. He was trying to win a competition between sound systems. Here's the debate this story leaves open. Studio One paid its artists almost nothing, kept them in near poverty even as their music circled the globe. Did that economic control make the music better by concentrating it? Or was it simply exploitation dressed as a creative ecosystem? Reasonable people answer that differently. The music remains.